Helena Marwick's hands trembled on the steering wheel as she turned onto the narrow dirt road leading to her lake house. 3 hours from Manhattan, and every mile had felt like peeling back layers of a life she'd been running from. The doctor's words still echoed in her mind. "Mrs. Marwick, your body is shutting down. If you don't take a complete break, we're looking at a full collapse. 2 months. No negotiations." She was 52 years old, a widow for 8 years, and until 6 weeks ago, she'd been the CEO of a Fortune 500 tech company, until her assistant found her unconscious on her office floor at 2 in the morning. The lake house appeared through the trees, and Helena's foot hit the brake so hard the car lurched forward. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The wraparound porch, which had been rotting and grey the last time she'd seen it, was painted a soft cream colour. Flower boxes overflowed with petunias and geraniums. The broken window on the second floor had been replaced. The lawn, once a tangle of weeds, was mowed in neat diagonal lines. Helena's heart began to race, that dangerous flutter the cardiologist had warned her about. She pressed her hand to her chest, counted to 5, and breathed. Someone had been living here. In her house, her sanctuary. The place she'd abandoned after Daniel died because every corner held his ghost. She got out slowly, her designer heels sinking into the gravel. The garden gate, which used to hang crooked on its hinges, swung open smoothly. Someone had oiled it, fixed it, cared for it. Voices drifted from inside, a child's laughter, high-pitched, pure, completely out of place. Helena climbed the porch steps, each one solid beneath her feet. No creaking, no rot, just careful, loving repair. The front door was unlocked. She pushed it open and stepped into a scene that made no sense. Toys scattered across what used to be Daniel's reading room. A woman, maybe 32, folding laundry on the couch. A little boy building something with blocks on the carpet. And in a bassinet by the window, a toddler sleeping with her thumb in her mouth. The woman looked up. Her face went white. "Who are you?" The words came out of Helena's mouth like bullets, sharp, precise, lethal. The woman dropped the laundry, clothes tumbling to the floor in slow motion. I can explain." "Explain!" Helena stepped forward, and she could feel it, that cold fury that had made boardrooms fall silent. "Explain what you're doing in my house." The little boy ran behind his mother, clutching her legs. The toddler woke with a startled cry. "Please." The woman's voice cracked. "Please. I didn't know anyone still owned this place. It looked abandoned. The windows were broken. The porch was falling apart. I thought... You thought you could just break in and make yourself at home." Helena pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the police." "No!" The woman stepped forward, and Helena saw it then. The desperation, the bone-deep fear. "Please. Just give me a few days, 1 week. I'll find somewhere else, I promise." "A week?" Helena's voice dripped with disbelief. "You want me to give you a week? My husband died." The words tumbled out, jagged and raw. "Car accident. 18 months ago. I lost my job. Couldn't pay rent. Got evicted. We were living in my car for 3 weeks before I found this place. 3 weeks. Do you understand what that means? Do you know what it's like to watch your children sleep in a parking lot because you have nowhere else to go?" The little boy started crying. The toddler's wails grew louder. Helena felt the pressure building in her chest again. This was exactly what the doctor had warned her about. 0 stress. Complete peace. That was the prescription. "Mommy." The boy tugged on his mother's shirt, his voice small and terrified. "Are we going back to the car? Are we going to sleep in the car again?" The question hung in the air like a knife. Helena had been preparing to make a cutting remark, something that would end this conversation and send these people on their way. But that one word, again, stopped her cold. She thought of Daniel, how he'd always insisted they give to homeless shelters, food banks, anywhere that helped families. How he'd said, We're lucky. Hell, so damn lucky. We have to remember that. She'd forgotten. For 8 years, she'd forgotten everything except work and grief. 7 days. Helena heard herself say it before she'd fully decided. You have 7 days to find somewhere else. But I'm staying here too. This is my house. I need it for my recovery. The woman's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Thank you so much. You won't even know we're here, I promise. What's your name? Nora. And this is Evan and Lily. An awkward silence stretched between them. Helena had no idea what to do next. Stand there. Go to her room. Pretend this was normal. Her phone rang, breaking the tension. Dr. Martinez, her cardiologist. Helena, you made it to the lake house? Yes. Good. Remember what we discussed. No work emails, no phone calls about the company, no stress whatsoever. Your heart can't handle it. Helena looked at Nora, who was trying to calm both crying children while also picking up the scattered laundry. There's been a complication. What kind of complication? There are people living in my house. Silence on the other end. Then, people. What people? A woman and her 2 children. They've been squatting here. Helena. Dr. Martinez's voice turned sharp. You need complete rest, complete isolation. This is not negotiable. Call the police and have them removed immediately. Helena watched Evan whisper something to his mother, watched Nora stroke his hair and whisper back, watched the way they held on to each other like the world might tear them apart at any second. I gave her 7 days to leave. 7 days? Helena, you nearly died. You collapsed in your office. Your heart is damaged. You cannot have chaos and strangers and... She'll stay in the back of the house. I won't even see them. This is a mistake. Maybe. Helena hung up before he could argue further. When she turned back, Nora was standing there with red-rimmed eyes. I'll make dinner. You must be hungry from the drive. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Nora's voice was firm despite the tears on her cheeks. It's the least I can do. You gave me 7 days when you could have had us arrested. So yes, I'm making dinner. She disappeared into the kitchen, children trailing behind her. Helena stood alone in the living room that was hers, but somehow wasn't anymore. The furniture had been rearranged. Throw pillows she'd never seen before brightened the couch. A vase of wildflowers sat on the side table, next to a framed crayon drawing of a house by a lake. She sank onto the couch and closed her eyes. 7 days. What could possibly happen in 7 days? Before I tell you what happened next morning, I need to ask you something. Have you ever had your whole life turned upside down by a complete stranger? Have you ever been so sure you were right, only to discover you didn't understand anything at all? Drop a comment and tell me about a time someone unexpected changed your perspective. And if you want to know whether Helena survived living with this family, or whether this arrangement became something none of them expected, make sure you're subscribed because this story is about to get a whole lot more complicated. Helena woke to the smell of fresh coffee. Strong coffee. The kind she loved but could never quite make right herself. For a moment, still caught in that space between sleep and consciousness, she forgot where she was. Forgot about the strangers in her house, forgot about her damaged heart and the doctor's warnings and the life she'd left behind in Manhattan. Then reality crashed back in. She checked her phone. 6:15 in the morning. She'd slept for 10 hours straight, something she hadn't done in years. The bedroom, Daniel's old study that she'd never been able to bring herself to sleep in, was exactly as she'd left it last night. Her suitcase still unpacked in the corner. Her clothes from yesterday draped over the chair. The coffee smell grew stronger. Helena pulled on a robe and followed it downstairs. The kitchen was warm with morning light, and Nora stood at the stove, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing a faded apron that Helena vaguely remembered buying years ago but never using. Good morning. Nora didn't turn around. Coffee's ready. I made toast too. I hope that's okay. I wasn't sure what you like for breakfast. Helena sat at the kitchen table, the same table where she and Daniel used to eat Sunday breakfasts and argue about the New York Times crossword. How did you know I take my coffee strong? I found your coffee grounds in the pantry. Figured if you bought that brand, you liked it that way. Nora set a mug in front of her. Steam rose from it in delicate spirals. I also found your vitamins. You should take them. Helena stared at the mug. When was the last time someone had made her coffee? Really made it for her, not just handed her a to-go cup from a corporate coffee shop? She couldn't remember. Evan appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. He stopped when he saw Helena, suddenly shy. Lily toddled in behind him, still in pajamas covered with cartoon clouds. Morning, Evan whispered. Good morning, Helena said, and the formality in her own voice made her cringe. Lily pointed at her. Miss Lena? She couldn't say Helena, Nora explained quickly, so she shortened it. I can tell her to stop if you don't like it. Something in Helena's chest shifted, softened. Miss Lena is fine. The little girl beamed, and Helena felt something she hadn't felt in 8 years. A warmth that had nothing to do with the coffee in her hands. Her phone buzzed. Doctor Martinez checking in. She texted back a quick, all fine, and silenced it. The last thing she needed was another lecture about stress management. Nora moved around the kitchen with quiet efficiency, scrambling eggs for the kids, cutting Lily's toast into small squares, pouring orange juice. The choreography of motherhood. Helena had never had children. She and Daniel had always said, someday, and then someday ran out. I noticed the porch is fixed, Helena said. And the garden. Nora's hand stilled for just a moment. I hope that's okay. I know I didn't have permission, but the place was falling apart. The porch was dangerous. Evan almost fell through a board. And the garden. Well, we needed food. I couldn't afford much, so I planted vegetables. You planted all of that yourself. It's not that hard once you know what you're doing. My grandmother taught me. She always said good soil and consistent care can grow almost anything. Nora finally turned to look at her. I'll understand if you want me to tear it out. Helena thought about the neat rows of tomatoes and lettuce she'd seen yesterday, the herbs growing in careful clusters, the way the whole property looked loved for the first time in nearly a decade. Keep it, she said. It looks good. Relief washed over Nora's face. Thank you. They ate in uncomfortable silence, the kids whispering to each other, Nora pushing food around her plate, Helena pretending to be interested in her phone while actually watching this strange family that had invaded her sanctuary. After breakfast, Helena went to the back porch with her coffee. The lake stretched out before her, glass smooth in the morning light. Daniel had loved this view. He'd sit out here for hours, reading, thinking, just being still. She'd always been too busy to join him, always had emails to answer, calls to make, problems to solve. Beautiful, isn't it? Helena turned. An elderly man stood at the edge of the property, white hair gleaming in the sun, a bag of what looked like fresh vegetables in his arms. Can I help you? Mr. Collins, I own the general store in town. He walked closer, smiling like they were old friends. You must be Helena. Nora's told me so much about you. She has? Helena's eyebrows shot up. We just met yesterday. Oh, Mr. Collins looked confused. But she said she'd been waiting for you to come back, that she was taking care of the place until you returned. I assumed... You assumed wrong. Helena's voice came out sharper than she intended. She's squatting in my house. I'm giving her 7 days to leave. The old man's smile faded. He set the vegetables down carefully on the porch railing. I see. Well, that's unfortunate. She's done wonders with this place, you know. When she showed up here in January, the house was practically condemned, windows broken, animals nesting in the walls, mold everywhere. She fixed all of it, with her bare hands and whatever tools she could borrow from folks in town. That doesn't give her the right to be here. No, Mr. Collins agreed. I suppose it doesn't. But it tells you something about who she is. A woman who'd rather work herself to the bone fixing a stranger's house than take charity. A mother who'll do anything to give her kids a roof over their heads. He picked up his bag. I'll leave these tomatoes for you. Nora asked me to bring them. But I reckon they're your tomatoes now since it's your garden. He walked away before Helena could respond. She stood there, the coffee turning cold in her hands, watching the lake and trying to ignore the guilt creeping up her spine. Inside, she could hear Nora singing to Lily, some soft lullaby that made the old house feel alive in a way it hadn't been in years. Helena's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Mrs. Marwick, this is Janet from Riverside Realty. I understand you're looking to sell the lake house. Helena's blood went cold. I never called any realtor. Oh, well, we received an inquiry from someone claiming to represent you, said you wanted a quick sale, market value, no inspections needed. Who called you? A woman. She didn't leave a name, just said she was your property manager. Helena hung up and stormed inside. Nora was in the living room, folding laundry again, always folding laundry. Did you call a realtor about my house? Nora looked up, genuinely confused. What? No. Why would I do that? Someone called claiming to represent me, trying to sell this place. It wasn't me. I swear. Nora stood, and Helena could see the fear in her eyes, the fear that she'd be accused of something she didn't do. I would never. This is your home. Helena believed her. She didn't know why, but she did. Then who? They stared at each other, and Helena saw something shift in Nora's expression, a hardening, a recognition. I might know, Nora said quietly. My late husband's sister. She's been looking for me since I left the city. She thinks I owe her money from the life insurance payout, but I used all of it to pay medical bills and funeral costs. She didn't believe me, said I was hiding assets. Nora's hands twisted together. If she found out where I am, she might be trying to force me out by getting you to sell. That's insane. She is insane. She threatened to take my kids, said I was an unfit mother because I couldn't provide for them. Tears filled Nora's eyes. That's why I ran. That's why I ended up here. I was desperate and terrified, and I had nowhere else to go. Helena felt the story shifting under her feet. This wasn't simple trespassing. This was survival. Does she know you're here? I don't know. I've been so careful. I don't use social media. I pay for everything in cash. But she's relentless. If she's calling realtors, she must have tracked me somehow. Evan appeared in the doorway, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Mommy, why are you crying? I'm not, sweetie. I'm fine. Nora wiped her eyes quickly, but her hands were shaking. Helena made a decision she didn't fully understand. You don't have 7 days anymore. Nora's face crumpled. Please, just a few more days. You have as long as it takes to figure this out. Helena cut her off. And I'm calling my lawyer. If your sister-in-law is harassing you, we're getting a restraining order. You don't have to do that. You don't even know me. No, Helena agreed. But I know what it's like to have your whole life fall apart. And I know what Daniel would say if he were here. He'd say we help when we can. So that's what we're doing. Nora started crying for real then. Deep sobs that she tried to muffle with her hand. Evan ran to her, wrapping his small arms around her waist. Helena stood awkwardly, not knowing what to do with all this raw emotion in her living room. She'd spent 8 years avoiding feelings, burying them under work and ambition, and carefully controlled isolation. Now they were everywhere, spilling out, impossible to ignore. The next morning, Helena woke to silence. No coffee smell, no soft singing from the kitchen, no sound of children's feet on the old wooden floors. She checked her phone. 7:30. Late for her, early for most people. She got out of bed with a strange sense of unease and padded downstairs in her robe. The kitchen was empty, cold. The coffee pot sat unused on the counter. "Nora?" No answer. Helena walked through the living room, the dining room, out to the back porch. Nothing. The garden stood quiet in the morning mist rising off the lake. Then she heard it. A muffled cry from the bathroom down the hall. She found Nora on the floor, her face pale and twisted in pain, one hand gripping her ankle, the other pressed against her mouth to keep from screaming and waking the children. "What happened?" "I slipped." Nora's voice came out in a gasp. "Lily spilled water last night. I forgot to wipe it up. I came in this morning and—" She tried to move and went even paler. "I think it's bad." Helena knelt beside her. The ankle was already swelling, turning a deep purple. "Can you put weight on it?" "I don't know, I have to. The kids need breakfast, I need to—" "You need to stay still." Helena's voice came out in that boardroom tone, the one that made people listen. "I'll handle the kids." "You're not moving." "You don't understand. Evan won't eat unless I cut his toast a certain way. Lily needs her medicine at exactly 8 o'clock. Nora." Helena gripped her shoulders gently. "I ran a company with 3,000 employees. I think I can manage 2 kids and breakfast." But Nora's eyes filled with tears. "You don't get it. This is all I have, taking care of them. This house. If I can't even do that, what am I?" The rawness of it hit Helena in the chest. She understood that feeling. The terror of being useless, unnecessary, replaceable. You're their mother. You're exhausted and hurt and human, and right now, you need help. Helena stood. "I'm going to get ice and elevate this. Then I'm calling Dr. Martinez to look at it. I can't afford a doctor. Good thing I can." Helena left before Nora could argue. The next few hours were chaos, pure, unfiltered chaos. Evan refused to eat the toast because Helena cut it into squares instead of triangles. Lily threw her medicine on the floor and screamed when Helena tried to give it to her again. By 9 o'clock, Helena was sweating. Her carefully styled hair was falling out of its clip, and she had what she suspected was baby spit up on her silk robe. "How do you do this every single day?" she asked Nora, who was now on the couch with her ankle propped up on pillows, ice wrapped in a kitchen towel. "Practice." Nora smiled weakly. "Lots and lots of practice." "This isn't practice. This is warfare." Evan appeared in the doorway, dragging his stuffed rabbit. "Miss Lena, I'm hungry. The toast was wrong." Helena took a deep breath and counted to 5 like Dr. Martinez taught her. "Okay, triangles. Got it. What else?" "Cut off the crusts." "The crusts? He doesn't like crusts," Nora called from the couch. "And he likes grape jelly, not strawberry." Helena went back to the kitchen, made new toast, cut it into perfect triangles, removed every trace of crust, found the grape jelly buried in the back of the refrigerator. When she presented it to Evan, he looked at it suspiciously, took one bite, and nodded. Good. It was the most rewarding good she'd received in years. Lily was another story. The little girl refused to take her medicine no matter what Helena tried. Mixing it with juice made her spit it out. Hiding it in yogurt made her refuse the yogurt. Trying to reason with a 3-year-old, Helena quickly learned, was completely pointless. "What does Nora do?" she finally asked in desperation. "Sings," Nora said from the couch. "I sing the medicine song." "There's a medicine song." "This is medicine, yummy and nice, makes you feel better in just a trice." Nora's voice was strained from pain. Then she takes it. Helena felt ridiculous, standing in the kitchen singing a made-up song to a toddler, but she did it anyway, and miraculously, Lily opened her mouth and swallowed the medicine without complaint. "You're a natural," Nora said, and Helena couldn't tell if she was being serious or sarcastic. By noon, Dr. Martinez arrived with his medical bag and a concerned expression. He examined Nora's ankle, while Helena corralled the children in the other room with a box of crayons and paper she'd found in a closet. "Severe sprain," Dr. Martinez announced when he emerged. "No break, but she needs to stay off it completely for at least a week. Ice, elevation, compression. I'll prescribe pain medication." A week. Helena's stomach dropped. At minimum. Could be longer if she doesn't rest properly. He looked at Helena with those sharp doctor eyes. "Which means you're going to be doing a lot more childcare." I don't know how to." "You managed this morning, didn't you?" "Barely, and that was just breakfast and medicine. What about meals and baths and bedtime and everything else?" Dr. Martinez smiled. "Welcome to parenthood, Helena. Even the temporary version." After he left, Helena stood in the kitchen staring at the disaster around her. Dishes piled in the sink, toys scattered across every surface, a mysterious sticky substance on the floor that she didn't want to identify. Her phone buzzed, her former assistant checking in about a merger deal that was falling apart without her input. Helena turned the phone off. A car pulled up outside. Helena looked through the window and saw Mr. Collins getting out, arms full of grocery bags. He walked in without knocking. "Heard about the accident. Brought supplies." "How did you already know?" "Small town, dear. Everyone knows everything." He started unpacking the bags in the kitchen. "Fresh chicken, vegetables, good rice. Not that instant stuff. I'm making lunch." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. Nora's helped half the town since she got here. Fixed Mrs. Patterson's fence. Helped Mr. Wu with his garden. Babysat for the Johnson twins when they had that emergency. Now it's our turn to help her." He pulled out a cutting board. "You just sit and watch. Might learn something." Helena sat. For the next hour, she watched Mr. Collins move around her kitchen like he owned it, humming old country songs, telling stories nobody asked for, but everyone ended up listening to anyway. "Did you know," he said while chopping carrots with impressive speed, "that this house used to belong to the mayor? Back in the 50s. He built it for his wife, who loved the lake. They had 7 children. Can you imagine? 7 kids in this house." "It must have been loud," Helena said. "It was alive." Mr. Collins pointed the knife at her for emphasis. "That's what houses need. Life, noise, people, otherwise they're just buildings. Expensive, empty buildings." Evan wandered in, drawn by the cooking smells. "What are you making?" "My famous chicken stew, secret recipe from my late wife. She made it every Sunday for 50 years. 50 years. Evan's eyes went wide. "That's like forever." Felt like it went by in a minute. Mr. Collins's voice got soft. "When you love someone, time does funny things." Helena felt something twist in her chest. She and Daniel had barely gotten 8 years. It didn't seem fair. When the stew was ready, Mr. Collins insisted they all eat together at the dining table. Family eats together. That's the rule. "We're not family," Helena said automatically. "Not yet," Mr. Collins winked. "But stranger things have happened." They sat around the table, Nora hobbling in with Helena's help, wincing with every step, Evan and Lily in their chairs. The baby in a high chair that Helena hadn't even known was in the house. Mr. Collins served everyone, ladling stew into mismatched bowls, passing around bread he'd brought from his store. It was delicious, rich and warm and perfect. "This is incredible," Helena admitted. "Of course it is. My wife taught me. Woman could make sawdust taste good." He got a faraway look. "Been gone 10 years now, but I still feel her sometimes. In the kitchen, in the garden. She's still here in my heart." "I'm sorry for your loss," Nora said softly. "Ah, no need. Had 50 good years with her. Some people don't get 5. He looked at Nora meaningfully. "Your husband, how long has it been?" Nora's face went tight. 18 months. "How did it happen?" If you don't mind me asking. The table went silent. Even the children stopped eating. Car accident, Nora finally said. He was driving home from a job site. Construction work. It was raining. A truck crossed the center line. Her voice went flat and emotionless. He died before the ambulance arrived. Helena felt the grief in those words, the same grief she'd carried for 8 years. The kids were so young, Nora continued. Lily was barely 1. Evan was 5. They don't really remember him. Sometimes Evan says he does, but I think he's remembering stories I told him, not real memories. That's hard, Mr. Collins said. Raising kids alone. I tried. I really did. Kept working. Kept the apartment. Kept pretending everything was fine. Nora's hands shook slightly as she held her spoon. But then I lost my job. Budget cuts. And the life insurance money ran out faster than I expected. Medical bills from the accident, funeral costs, lawyer fees dealing with my sister-in-law who thought I was hiding money. She laughed bitterly. I wasn't hiding anything. There was nothing left to hide. Helena pushed her stew around her bowl, appetite gone. So you ended up here, Mr. Collins finished. So I ended up here. Nora looked at Helena. I'm sorry. I know it was wrong, but I was desperate. Stop apologizing, Helena said, surprising herself. You've apologized enough. Mr. Collins stood abruptly. Well, I've said my piece. Food's on the table. Family's fed. That's all that matters. He headed for the door, then stopped. Helena, can I give you some advice from an old man who's seen a lot of life? I have a feeling you're going to whether I say yes or not. He grinned. Smart woman. Here it is. Empty houses are sad houses. This place has been sad for a long time. Since your husband died, I'm guessing. But now it's not sad anymore. Think about that before you send them away. He left, closing the door softly behind him. The silence that followed felt heavy, weighted with all the things nobody wanted to say. Lily broke it by knocking over her water glass, sending liquid across the table, and somehow, in the chaos of cleaning it up, passing towels, wiping down the table together, Helena felt something shift, a small crack in the wall she'd built around herself 8 years ago. Helena woke at 2 a.m. to the sound of crying, not the children, Nora. She lay in bed for a long moment, telling herself it wasn't her problem. Nora was an adult. Adults cried sometimes. It was normal, natural, none of her business. But the sound didn't stop. Helena got up, pulled on her robe, and walked quietly down the hall. Light spilled from under the kitchen door. She pushed it open slowly. Nora sat at the table, surrounded by papers. Bills, apartment listings, budget calculations, scribbled on notebook pages. A calculator. A pen she kept chewing on between numbers. Her injured ankle propped on a chair, tears running down her face as she crossed out another address. Another possibility. Another dead end. Can't sleep? Helena asked. Nora jumped, quickly wiping her face. I'm sorry. Did I wake you? I was trying to be quiet. You didn't wake me. Helena moved into the kitchen, filled the kettle with water. Tea? Sure. Thank you. Helena made tea the way Daniel used to. Chamomile with honey. Something to calm the nervous system, he always said. She set a mug in front of Nora and sat down across from her. What are you doing? Looking for a place to live. Nora gestured at the papers. I've called 20 apartments in the last 2 days. Half don't allow children. The other half want first month, last month, security deposit and credit checks. I don't have good credit anymore. I don't have money for deposits. And the places that might work are either too far from any jobs or in neighborhoods where I can't let the kids play outside. Helena looked at the numbers. They were brutal. Rent prices that seemed impossible. Deposits that exceeded Nora's entire savings. requirements that eliminated her before she even applied. What about assistance programs, housing vouchers? Waiting list is 18 months minimum. By the time my name comes up, I'll be… Nora's voice broke. I don't know where I'll be. Helena sipped her tea. Your sister-in-law. Tell me more about her. Nora's jaw tightened. Christine. She was always jealous of me and Marcus. Thought I wasn't good enough for her brother. When he died and the insurance money came through, she convinced herself I was lying about the bills. Said I must have hidden assets somewhere, started threatening me, showing up at my apartment at all hours, calling CPS and making false reports about neglect. The pain in Nora's voice was visceral. I'd just lost my husband. I was drowning in grief and bills and trying to keep my kids fed. And she was accusing me of being a gold digger, of killing Marcus for money. Can you imagine? The father of my children, the love of my life. Why didn't you get a restraining order? I tried. Judge said there wasn't enough evidence of immediate danger, just harassment. He suggested I move to a different city to get away from her. Nora laughed bitterly. Move. Like I had money for that. Like I had anywhere to go. So you came here. I drove north with everything I owned in my car. No plan, no destination, just away. And then the car broke down 30 miles from here. A mechanic in town fixed it for free after I told him my story. Said to pay him back when I could. And while it was being fixed, I walked around, found this house, saw it was abandoned, and thought maybe, just maybe, I could stay for a little while, just until I figured things out. Helena watched Nora gather the papers, trying to organize the chaos of her life into neat piles. It was pointless. Some things couldn't be organized. How long have you been here? 4 months. I kept thinking you'd come back any day. Kept preparing for the moment you'd kick us out. I cleaned everything, fixed everything, made the house perfect so maybe you wouldn't be too angry. Nora's hands trembled as she stacked bills. But you didn't come, and I started to hope maybe you never would. Maybe this could be our home. Maybe we could be safe here. The words hung between them. I'm sorry I ruined that, Helena said quietly. You didn't ruin anything. This was always temporary. I knew that. Nora wiped her eyes again. I just let myself forget for a while. Helena stood, walked to the window. The lake reflected moonlight like spilled mercury. When Daniel died, I sold our apartment in the city within a month. Couldn't stand being there. Everything reminded me of him. The couch we picked out together. The kitchen where he'd make Sunday pancakes. The bedroom where we'd talk for hours before falling asleep. She turned to face Nora. I kept this place because I couldn't bring myself to sell it. But I couldn't bring myself to come back either. So it just sat here. Empty. Rotting. Becoming a monument to my cowardice. You're not a coward. I ran away from my grief by drowning myself in work. 16-hour days. 7 days a week. No friends. No relationships. No life. Just work and more work until my body literally gave out. Helena's voice hardened. That's not brave. That's pathetic. Nora shook her head. That's survival. You did what you had to do to get through each day. Same as me. They looked at each other across the kitchen table. 2 widows. 2 women who'd lost everything and rebuilt themselves from broken pieces. Different methods, same pain. Stay, Helena heard herself say. What? Stay. Not for 7 days. Not until you find somewhere else. Just stay. Helena, I can't. Why not? The house is huge. You're already taking care of it better than I ever did. The kids are happy here. You're safe from your sister-in-law. And honestly, Helena sat back down. I need the help. I can't take care of myself and work on recovery while managing everything alone. Dr. Martinez made that very clear. This is charity. This is survival. For both of us. Nora's face crumpled. You don't understand. I can't keep taking from you. I can't keep being in debt to someone. I need to stand on my own. Then pay rent. I don't have money for rent. Not money, work. Helena leaned forward. You cook, clean, garden, take care of the house. That's worth something. That's worth a lot, actually. And in exchange, you live here. You and the kids are safe, fed, warm, secure. That's not fair to you. Fair? Helena almost laughed. Nothing about life is fair. Fair would be our husband still being alive. Fair would be you not losing your job and your home. Fair would be me not almost dying alone in my office at 52 because I forgot how to be human. She reached across the table and gripped Nora's hand. This isn't about fair. This is about two people who need each other helping each other survive. Nora cried harder, and this time she didn't try to hide it. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. I know enough. Helena squeezed her hand. I know you're strong. I know you love your kids more than anything. I know you fixed my house when you didn't have to. I know you make perfect coffee and sing medicine songs and fold laundry like it's a meditation. She smiled. And I know Daniel would have liked you. He always said the best people are the ones who keep going even when everything falls apart. They sat there in the quiet kitchen, hands linked across the table, two broken women holding each other up in the middle of the night. Okay, Nora whispered finally. Okay, we'll stay. But only if you let me actually help. Let me take care of you while you recover. Let me earn this. Deal. The next morning, Helena woke to the smell of coffee and pancakes and the sound of children laughing. She came downstairs to find Evan and Lily making a fort out of couch cushions while Nora hopped around the kitchen on one foot, somehow managing to cook breakfast despite the injury. You're supposed to be resting, Helena said. I am resting. This is me resting. Nora flipped a pancake with impressive skill. Before, I'd have made pancakes, cleaned the house, done 3 loads of laundry, and weeded the garden by now. This is practically a vacation. Helena couldn't help but smile. They ate breakfast together. Helena cut Evan's pancakes into triangles without being asked. Lily called her Miss Lena and demanded to sit in her lap. Everyone laughed. It felt normal, natural, like they'd been doing this for years instead of days. Helena's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Helena Marwick. A woman's voice, sharp, cold. Yes. This is Christine Holloway. I believe you have my niece and nephew living in your house. Helena's blood went cold. She looked at Nora, whose face had gone white. Who is this? I'm Nora's sister-in-law, and I'm calling to inform you that you're harboring a woman who's mentally unstable and unfit to care for children. I have documentation. Medical records, witness statements. Everything I need to prove she's a danger to those kids. That's not true. Helena's voice came out deadly calm, the same voice she used in hostile board meetings. I have a lawyer, I have a court date, and I will be getting custody of my brother's children. If you interfere, I'll sue you for obstruction. Do you understand me? Helena walked out of the kitchen so the kids wouldn't hear. I understand perfectly. Let me tell you what I understand. I understand you're a bully who's been harassing a grieving widow for 18 months. I understand you're using those children as pawns to get money you think you're owed. And I understand that if you come anywhere near this property or those kids, I will destroy you. Silence on the other end. Do you know who I am? Helena continued. I'm Helena Marwick. I ran a Fortune 500 company. I have lawyers who eat people like you for breakfast. I have resources you can't even imagine, and I will use every single one of them to protect this family. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to drop whatever legal action you've started. You're going to leave Nora alone, and you're going to disappear from their lives. Because if you don't, I will make it my personal mission to ensure you regret it for the rest of your life. You can't try me. Helena hung up. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was racing. Dr. Martinez would be furious. This was exactly the kind of stress she was supposed to avoid. But she didn't care. She walked back into the kitchen. Nora stood by the stove, tears streaming down her face. She found us. I know. Helena put her hands on Nora's shoulders. And I handled it. You can't fight her. She's relentless. She'll come after you too. Let her try. Helena smiled grimly. I've dealt with hostile takeovers, corporate espionage, and boardroom coups. One bitter sister-in-law doesn't scare me. But your health, your recovery, you can't. I can, and I will. Helena looked at the children playing in the living room, oblivious to the danger circling them. This is my house. You're under my roof. That makes you my responsibility, and I protect what's mine. Nora hugged her then, tight and desperate and full of gratitude that had no words. And Helena hugged her back, realizing with sudden clarity that somewhere in the last few days, these strangers had become something more. They'd become hers. The Lake House, Part 5, Final. 3 weeks later, Helena stood in her lawyer's office in Manhattan, watching Christine Holloway's attorney shuffle papers with increasingly nervous hands. My client is willing to drop all custody claims, the lawyer said, not meeting Helena's eyes, in exchange for a full release from any countersuits. Helena's lawyer, Margaret Chen, smiled like a shark. Not good enough. Your client has been harassing Mrs. Marwick's tenant for 18 months. She's filed false CPS reports, made defamatory statements, and committed what amounts to stalking across state lines. We're not interested in releases. We're interested in a permanent restraining order and a written apology. That's excessive. Excessive would be the lawsuit I'm prepared to file for intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation, and harassment. I have documentation of every call, every threat, every false report your client made. Margaret slid a folder across the table. I also have 3 character witnesses who will testify to Nora's excellent parenting, including a pediatrician, a school counselor, and, she paused for effect, the mayor of Millbrook, who happens to be the town where Mrs. Marwick's property is located. Christine herself sat rigid in her chair, her face pinched with barely contained fury. And this is about money. It's always been about money. Marcus left medical bills and funeral expenses. Helena cut in. Her voice was ice. Your brother died with $47,000 in debt. Nora paid every cent of it with the insurance money. I have the receipts. What she doesn't have is the inheritance you convinced yourself existed. She leaned forward. Your brother loved his wife. He loved his children. And he would be ashamed of what you've become. Christine's face went red, then white. You don't know anything about my brother. I know he married a woman strong enough to fix a house with her bare hands to give her children a home. I know he raised a son who says please and thank you even when he's scared. I know he had a daughter who laughs like music. Helena's voice softened just slightly. And I know that's his legacy. Not whatever vindictive crusade you've been on. The room fell silent. Finally, Christine's lawyer cleared his throat. We'll sign the restraining order and provide the written apology. Good. Margaret stood. You have 24 hours to deliver both to my office. If Mrs. Holloway violates the order or contacts Nora or the children in any way, we will prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. Are we clear? They were clear. Helena walked out of the office building into bright October sunshine. The city hummed around her, horns honking, people rushing, the smell of street vendors mixing with exhaust fumes. She'd lived here for 30 years, run a company from a corner office 50 floors up, built an empire in these unforgiving streets, and all she wanted was to go home, not to her penthouse apartment, which she'd already listed with a realtor, home to the lake house, to Nora's coffee and Evan's questions about everything, and Lily calling her Miss Lena, to a life she hadn't known she was missing until a desperate woman and 2 children broke into her house and reminded her what living actually meant. Her phone buzzed. Nora. How did it go? It's done. She's backing off. You're safe. Helena heard Nora's breath catch, then steady. Thank you. I don't know how to thank you for everything you've... Stop. Helena smiled. And you've thanked me enough. Now tell me what you need from the city. I'm not driving back empty-handed. Books. Evan's reading chapter books now, and we've exhausted the library. And Lily wants those specific crayons that smell like fruit. And, are you sure you don't mind? Nora, make a list. Text it to me. I'll get everything. She hung up and stood there on the sidewalk, business people flowing around her like water around a stone. 6 weeks ago, she'd been one of them. Racing, driven, slowly dying from the inside out. Now she was something else. Someone else. The lake house glowed with evening light when Helena pulled up 2 hours later, car packed with bags from 3 different bookstores and an art supply shop. She'd gone overboard. She knew she'd gone overboard. She didn't care. Evan burst through the front door before she'd even turned off the engine. Miss Lena? Miss Lena! Did you get the books? I got books. Plural. Many books. His eyes went wide as she opened the trunk. That's like a whole library. Consider it an investment in your education. Helena handed him a bag. Careful. Some of those are heavy. Nora appeared on the porch, walking without a limp for the first time in weeks. She looked at the overflowing trunk and shook her head. You didn't. I did. Helena, this is too much. There's no such thing as too many books. Helena pulled out another bag. And before you argue, remember that arguing with me is pointless. I'm stubborn, and I have more money than sense. Nora laughed, really laughed, and something in Helena's chest loosened. They carried everything inside together. The house smelled like pot roast and fresh bread. The living room was clean, but lived in, toys in baskets, throw blankets draped over furniture. Family photos Nora had framed sitting on the mantel next to the picture of Daniel that Helena had brought from storage. It looked like a home. Their home. After dinner, Nora's pot roast was phenomenal. After books were distributed and exclaimed over, after Lily was bathed and Evan was tucked in with a new adventure novel clutched to his chest, after the dishes were washed and put away, Helena and Nora sat on the back porch with tea and watched the lake turn silver under moonlight. I have to tell you something, Helena said. Nora's hands tightened on her mug. That sounds ominous. It's not. At least, I don't think it is. Helena took a breath. I'm selling my apartment in the city, and I've decided not to go back to work. Not to the company, anyway. What? But you love that company. You built it. I built it with Daniel, and when he died, I used it as a hiding place. A way to avoid dealing with the fact that my life had fallen apart. Helena stared at the lake. But I'm not hiding anymore. I'm here. And I'm realizing that this... She gestured at the house, the lake, the quiet. This is what Daniel wanted for us all along. A life, not just a career. So what will you do? I've been thinking about that. Helena turned to face her. You know how you've been teaching Lily her letters and helping Evan with his reading. Yeah. You're good at it. Really good. Patient. Creative. You make learning fun. Helena set down her tea. There's a small elementary school in town. 23 students. Grades K through 5. They've been looking for a teacher's aide for 6 months but can't afford to pay much. I talked to the principal yesterday. Nora's eyes widened. You what? I told her I knew someone perfect for the job, someone with patience, creativity, and a deep understanding of what kids need, someone who's been through hell and came out stronger. Helena smiled. She wants to meet you. Interview is Monday. I don't have teaching credentials. You have everything that matters, and I already checked. Teacher's aides in this state don't need certification, just a high school diploma and a passion for helping kids. You have both. Nora's hands started shaking. Why are you doing all this? Helena thought about that question, about the real answer. Because 6 weeks ago, I was dying, not just physically, but in every way that matters. I'd forgotten how to laugh, how to care about anything except quarterly earnings and stock prices. I'd forgotten what it felt like to be part of something bigger than myself. She reached over and took Nora's hand. You reminded me. You and those kids. You reminded me that life isn't about building empires or proving anything to anyone. It's about this connection, family, home. We're not your family, aren't you? Helena squeezed her hand. Could you make my coffee every morning? I cut Evan's toast into triangles. Lily won't go to bed unless I read her a story. We eat dinner together every night. We argue about whose turn it is to do dishes. We worry about each other. We laugh together. We cry together. She felt tears in her eyes. If that's not family, what is? Nora was crying now too. Blood. Blood just means you share DNA. Family means you choose each other, every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. They sat there holding hands. Two widows who'd found each other by accident and built something intentional from the wreckage of their old lives. There's something else, Helena said. Something I need to tell you before this goes any further. You're scaring me. Don't be scared. Just listen. Helena took a deep breath. I'm changing my will. If something happens to me, another health crisis, an accident, whatever, this house goes to you. And there's a trust fund for the kids. Education, college, trade school, whatever they choose. It's all arranged. No, absolutely not. I can't. You can, and you will. Because this isn't charity or pity or some rich woman's guilt. This is me making sure the people I love are protected. This is me learning from my mistakes. Helena's voice broke. Daniel and I always said we'd write wills, always said we'd get our affairs in order. And then he died, and I had nothing, no preparation, no plan, just grief and chaos, and decisions I had to make while falling apart. She wiped her eyes. I won't do that to you. I won't leave things unfinished. So yes, you're in my will. Deal with it. Nora laughed through her tears. You're the most stubborn, infuriating, generous person I've ever met. I know. It's part of my charm. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the lake lap against the shore, to crickets singing in the grass, to the wind moving through trees that had stood here long before either of them and would stand long after. Helena? Nora's voice was quiet. Do you think they would have liked each other? Daniel and Marcus? Helena thought about her husband, brilliant, kind, always fixing things that were broken, always seeing the best in people. I think they would have been friends, good friends. I think so too. Another silence. Then, do you think they know, wherever they are? Do you think they know what we've built here? Helena looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, in whatever came after this life, she imagined Daniel smiling, proud of her for finally understanding what he'd been trying to teach her all along. Yeah, she said softly. I think they know. Monday morning, Nora got the job. She came home with tears of joy streaming down her face, spinning Lily around the kitchen while Evan cheered. That night, they celebrated with ice cream and a spontaneous dance party in the living room. Helena watched them and felt her damaged heart grow stronger with every beat. 2 months later, on a cold December morning, Helena woke to find the lake frozen and Evan's face pressed against her bedroom window, breath fogging the glass. Miss Lena! Miss Lena! Wake up! It's ice skating day, she groaned. What time is it? 6:30. We have to go before all the good spots are taken. Helena rolled over and found Nora standing in her doorway, 2 mugs of coffee in hand, smiling apologetically. He's been up since 5. There was no stopping him. The sacrifices I make for this family, Helena muttered, but she was smiling. They spent the day on the frozen lake, Evan racing across the ice with borrowed skates, Lily making snow angels on the shore, Nora teaching Helena how to actually skate instead of just clutching the edge in terror. They built a snowman that looked more like a snow blob. They had a snowball fight that ended with everyone soaked and laughing. That night, as they thawed out by the fireplace with hot chocolate, Evan looked up at Helena with serious eyes. "Miss Lena, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Are you going to stay? Forever?" The room went still. Nora's hand froze halfway to her mug. Lily stopped playing with her dolls. Helena looked at this little boy who'd lost his father, who'd slept in a car for 3 weeks, who'd been scared and hungry and uncertain about everything, who now sat in a warm house with a full belly and hope in his eyes. "Yes," she said. "I'm staying. Forever." "Promise?" She held out her pinky. "Promise." He linked his pinky with hers, and then, surprising everyone including himself, he climbed into her lap and hugged her tight. "I love you, Miss Lena." Helena felt something break open in her chest, something that had been sealed shut for 8 years. "I love you too, Evan. I love all of you." Nora was crying. Helena was crying. Even Lily looked confused by all the emotion, but decided hugging was appropriate, and joined in. They sat there in a tangle of arms and love, and the warmth of a fire that would never go out as long as they kept feeding it together. Later, after the kids were asleep, Helena and Nora sat on the couch with the lights low and the Christmas tree Evan had insisted they needed twinkling in the corner. "I never thought I'd have this again," Nora said quietly. "A home. A family. Hope." "Neither did I." Helena rested her head on Nora's shoulder. "Funny how life works. I came here to recover from almost dying, and instead, I learned how to live. We learned together." "Yeah." Helena smiled. "We did." Outside, snow began to fall, soft and silent, covering the lake and the garden and the house that had once been empty, but now overflowed with life and laughter and love. Inside, 2 women who'd been broken built something whole from the pieces they'd found in each other, and in the quiet moments between laughter and tears, they remembered. Daniel, who'd always said life was about connection. Marcus, who'd taught his son that family meant taking care of each other. Their love hadn't died with them. It had planted seeds that grew in unexpected soil, in an abandoned house by a lake, in 2 broken women who found each other when they needed it most. Some would call it coincidence. Others, fate. Helena preferred to think of it as grace. God's gentle hand guiding the desperate and the dying toward each other, toward healing, toward home. That was its own kind of miracle. Thank you for listening.